Last week, I asked you all to design a custom Shadowverse card based around a Goblin tribal theme. Let's see what you came up with. Here's a couple from Ellie here. Gobby's coming. 7 play point. Randomly put cards with Goblin in their card name that cost 4 play points or less from your deck into play until your area is full. This seems like it wouldn't be overpowered in the context of the game right now, but if you take into account all of the submissions for CCW Goblin. And we have the Goblin here, a legendary that gains different effects depending on how many goblins you destroy. And it seems to work really well with that card we saw just now. Gobby's coming, curves into this, and you can evolve it and do it again. It's unfortunate that Goblin isn't a trait, so this card, the way it's worded now, would work with Goblin Slayer and Tina and all of them. But I'll just take it on good faith that you mean actual goblins, because that's what we're doing here today. This seems pretty strong if you get the 3 goblin and 4 goblin effects. The 1 and 2 just makes it sort of a big beat stick. But it's a cool concept, and it's a very goblin tribal thing to, you know, eat other goblins and become more powerful, I guess. Here's one from Cyros, Anti-Goblin Archer, 2 play point, 2/2 neutral. Silver follower. Once per turn, you can reveal this card from your hand and pay 1 play point. Deal 2 damage to an enemy follower with Goblin in its name, except Anti-Goblin Archer. Fanfare, destroy 1 enemy follower with Goblin in its name, except Anti-Goblin Archer. I really like the first effect. It's a very MTG style effect, being able to pay for an effect out of hand. Again, it's unfortunate that this would technically work on Lucius and Tina. An unfortunate team kill. But you know, with so many of the new Goblin cards being introduced in this CCW, you gotta have something to go against the Horde, right? And this is one hell of a Goblin hate card for sure. Look how many arrows she has. From Ixalea, we have Goblin Sapper, 3 play point, 2/1. Last words, deal 1 damage to all allies and enemies. Evolve, transform all allied goblins into Goblin Sappers. Wow! Wow. Oh, I really like this. The effect itself is just really cool and sort of like the whole chaotic goblin ruining everything theme. It's especially World of Warcrafty. But now that the new Dragon Omen card has been revealed, I can't think about anything else except using Goblin Sapper with Galmew. I think this card was designed before the Dragon Omens were revealed, so you couldn't have known. But this would be ridiculously good with, you know, the new Dragon Omen stuff. Here's one from Jeremy Yaya, Land of Goblins. Countdown 10. Can't be destroyed by spells and effects except by its own effect. Whenever an allied goblin comes into play, subtract 1 from this amulet's countdown. Last words. Banish cards in your opponent's hand. Put 1 of each copy of the banished cards and 20 goblins into your opponent's deck. Your opponent draws cards equal to the number of banished cards. What? That's such a troll card. And so powerful you can get it off. Like, just shuffling 20 dead cards into your opponent's deck when it gets later on in the game. That's insane! That's insane! Here's Spooky Shade 2002, Rampaging Moblin, 7 play point, 4/4. Destroy an allied goblin and deal X damage to a random enemy follower or the enemy leader if they control no followers. X is equal to the attack if the goblin had. Repeat this fanfare until you control no other goblins. Yeah, it's a really cool idea of this gigantic, thick boy lobbing goblins at other people. But unfortunately, the attack value of goblins in the game right now tends to be quite low. But you start throwing some CCW goblins at them, and this becomes scary. Y'all getting together to make the scariest tribal ever made. Joshua Benaya has Goblin Scyther, 4 play point, 2/3 Rushbane. Last words, randomly put 1 of the following cards into your hand. Goblin, Goblin Leader, Goblin King, or Goblin Scyther. Oh wait, the evolve effect also has transform an enemy follower into a goblin. Whoa! That's pretty good. Really fun little controlling value card here. I like it especially because it reminds me of some Hearthstone cards in a good way, that you can get the same thing off the card you just played, you know, like Primordial Glyph into Primordial Glyph. You got the Goblin Scyther into Goblin Scyther. My soul still hurts from the rotation of Dragoon Scyther, but this might ease my aching heart. Gabriel Volcanus with Royal Guardian Goblin, 5.35 Ward. Choose, put either a Goblin King or a Goblin Leader into your hand, and subtract 2 from its cost. Oof! Really strong value card here, especially in Take 2. Not so sure its viability in Constructed, unless, you know, someone built a whole Goblin tribal. Who would ever do that, though, right? But just having a pretty solid ward that can go into another solid ward or more ward presence is strong as heck. Here's one by Monica, Goblin Skystrider, 5 play point, 3/2 Storm. Good card. Smork. Last words, summon a goblin. Oh, I like that a lot. And this art is just hilarious and gorgeous. And the flavor being that when you defeat the Skystrider, the goblin is still alive and pops off. The good boy bird sacrifices its life for its goblin masters. They did not deserve it. Oh, and look who decided to participate in CCW Goblin. That's right. Games themselves, you know? Here's a card by 1-2 Dead. Primal Goblin, legendary, neutral, 3.23. Rush, fanfare, gain X attack. X equals the number of goblin cards destroyed this match. Storm on evolve. It's like the goblin version of Saphira, man. Well, I mean, the goblins need a win con, right? Might as well be this thing. It's a pretty solid one, too. It's funny that it also counts enemy goblin cards, so beware the goblin mirror, and especially beware the player that drops Primal Goblin first. Oh, Philip here with a particularly valiant-looking goblin, Goblar the Last. 10 play point 512. Can only be played if at least 10 allied followers with goblin in their name have been destroyed. Fanfare, attack all enemies. This follower can't attack the following turn. If the opponent has a 20 play point 2020 in the way, this might be a little more difficult. I like that the Primal Goblin was a storm-based win con for Goblin decks, and this is like a controlling, attrition-y one. Y'all are coming together from all over the place to create Goblin cards for every archetype, and I can appreciate that. That's unity right there. Oh, hold up, Proton Cannon. There are 13 cards that you're submitting to this custom card weekly? Well, let's just take a look at a couple. Tina Goblin Slayer. Ooh, an alternate form of Tina. Go in Chronogenesis style, and it's a Swordcraft card. Non-neutral Goblin-based card here. 5 play point 3-4. Discard all goblins in your hand, put a Heavy Knight into your hand for each goblin discarded, and reduce the cost of all Heavy Knights in your hand to 0. Destroy all allied goblins in play, summon a Heavy Knight for each goblin destroyed. Give them Storm. No, she's not a Goblin Slayer, she's transforming goblins into Heavy Knights. What's happening there? I wonder if you mean goblin like the 1 play point goblin specifically, or just goblin creatures in general. But there's really cool fantasy behind this one, you know? The Goblin Slayer coming through, slaying the goblins, then getting the other knights to rise up with her. And it's a strong card for goblin rivals too. I mean, you get 0 play point cards that you can combo with Celia, and if you have goblins on the board, it's this additional storm damage, which is something that Swordcraft always appreciates. And also from Proton Cannon here, Lima, Mayhem Master. Fanfare, put 2 goblins into your hand. Give both leaders the following effect. At the start of your turn, put a goblin into your hand. If you have 3 cards or less in your hand at the start of your turn, put 2 goblins into your hand instead. Not stackable and last for the rest of the match. It's good to have more goblin generators for all these goblin synergy cards. It's kinda sketchy that you're playing a 3.12 and also giving your opponent's resources perpetually throughout the game. I think the reasoning is that if you're playing a goblin-based deck, you're gonna make use of the goblins more effectively than your opponent anyway. So, pretty cool support card for that kind of thing. Yo, Kello, dude! Did you make an entire expansion based on goblin tribal cards? I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'll stick to the ones that you submitted to Twitter. If you want, you can check out that link in your own time, guys. Goblin Alchemist, 3 play point 1-4. At the end of your turn, spend any unspent play points and add a random spell from your craft to your hand, with a cost equal to the amount of play points spent this way. It's kind of a Hearthstone-esque spell, isn't it? But I think it's cool, because, you know, it's the whole Goblin Alchemy is chaotic kind of thing, so you get random cards. Not sure if other Shadowverse players would appreciate this kind of effect being in the game, though. And we have 2 big Goblin Giant. It's a fun name, but I'm not sold on a 2 play point follower that can get traded into by a puppet solo. Alt Dim Sum with Goblin Queen here. 5 play point 2-4. Accelerate 2, summon a Goblin. Fanfare, summon a Goblin. At the end of your turn, deal X damage to a random enemy follower equals to the number of allied cards in play with Goblin in its name. And evolve, also summon a Goblin. I like this. It's an effective mid-game tempo tool that really rewards you for building a deck around this tribal. The Accelerate does make it more effective in that you have more Goblin generators for a Goblin-based deck, but it also means that the deck builder isn't as taxed to include more Goblins to make cards like this work, so it's a lot easier to get the tribal working. And I kind of like having the tribal require some effort to get the effects off. But I'm just nitpicking though. This is a cool card. Kello, what is this, man? You're still submitting cards? You thought I was done. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Robog, Robo, Hobgoblin. You're pulling my leg now, aren't you? This follower counts as having every trait, keyword, rarity, and name. Fanfare, perform the fanfare of another random follower with fanfare. Evolve, perform the evolve of... Come on. I mean, it's funny. But there's only so much Clown Fiesta you can fit into one card, alright? And here's a couple cards from Mommy. I don't know, that doesn't feel right saying that. His Majesty Goblus, 4 play point 5-5. Cannot attack. Fanfare, give your leader the following effect. Gain a different effect depending on the number of goblin followers you control. 1 at the end of your turn, add a goblin to your hand. Or Goblin Princess. Goblins can evolve for no cost. Your goblin followers cost 2 less. Your goblin followers gain +1/+1, not stackable and lasts for the rest of the match. So it's not stackable, so you can only get one of these effects? Or is it cumulative? And the evolve option is a ward. That's cool. So you evolve it to make it a defensive option. but you also have to evolve it for it to get off your board, because otherwise it's just a dead space on your board because you can't remove it. There's also His Majesty's Champion. So this is all Goblis's followers, I imagine. 5/3/4, clash, deal X damage to the enemy follower and enemy leader. X equals the number of goblin followers in play. Well, that's strong if you're playing a goblin tribal. His Majesty's General, 6/4/3, summon 2 goblins. Whenever a goblin comes into play, give it ward and rush. And His Majesty's Hand, 3/1, ambush. While you control another goblin follower, this follower cannot be damaged while attacking. Wow, this whole suite of Goblis and his followers are pretty powerful, hey? I think I like Goblis the best here because his effect is just really interesting. But these other 3 are well conceived and very strong. Well, that's it for the CCW this week. Thank you guys so much for submitting your Goblin cards. But this is Custom Card Weekly, after all, and you're here to find out next week's challenge. And since Omen of the 10 is on the way and the hype train is building up, I want you guys to design a custom card that belongs to one of the Omen themes. So that would be 1, Destruction, Silence, Repose, Disdain, Unkilling, Lust, Usurpation, Truth, or Craving. You can refer to the cards that have already been revealed for help on flavor and mechanics in your design. I'm excited to see what you come up with. That's it for this video. Like it if you did, don't if you didn't, subscribe for more Shadowverse content in the very near future, and of course, thank you to my wonderful patrons, patreon.com/Ignideus. If you'd like to support the channel as well, I would highly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.